Yes. So we are going to do this live, and this is about, we're going to tune in with Matthew Cox. He has new details about Diddy's history and Kim's tell all diary. The diary was found, and it has a lot of juicy details in it. And y'all, I must say, this is very disgusting to know that my generation, me and Puffy, we are the same age, has been doing all of this wickedness all this time. So we have Matthew Cox. That's his channel. I'm going to share, and we're going to listen to everything that he has found out, okay, regarding Diddy, Kim Porter, and everyone linked, everyone in the music industry, because everyone is coming down. It is all, since Puffy has been arrested, a lot of head honchos at these record labels have resigned. Kevin Liles, the day that Puffy was arrested, that's the same day. No, Puffy was arrested Monday. Kevin Liles, he resigned on Tuesday. Yes. So a lot of people is going to come down because Puffy did not do all of this by himself. Okay. And this been going on in the industry for a very long time. And it is people on those tapes, okay, that goes all the way up to the royal family. So don't be surprised about what's going to be revealed, because all is going to be revealed. And no one gets away from the Almighty Most High Creator, the Most High Yah, the Almighty true and living Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. No one gets away from him. No one. We are in the Most High's kingdom now. His kingdom has come. That's why you see judgment coming down for those that's been doing wicked, and those of us that gets our justice. We're going to get our justice. So let's tune in. I'm going to turn the camera around, and we're going to go to Matthew Cox, Inside True Crime. Hold on.
That nobody has got. I mentioned this on one reel, and it was my most played reel on my entire Instagram. Over 100 and something thousand plays, which for me is pretty big. Like that's a lot more than normal. I'll kind of pre-curse this, so I'm not going to give the names of how I come into contact with this book, but
He
anybody
has the book.
that knows anything about the Diddy situation, he had a
He has
longtime
Kim's
girlfriend,
book.
Kim Porter. Now, he had a few kids with her. They had a long running relationship, and then they did separate. Now, it's been long rumored that she was writing like a diary. I don't necessarily know if I would call it a book, but a diary of events that took place throughout their relationship. And then she mysteriously passed away due to pneumonia. As I was saying, it's been long rumored that she was writing a tell all book, or at least a memoir, detailing her tumultuous life with P. Diddy and some of his extracurricular activities. I read it. I was actually out of town, so I took it with me, and I'm reading it on the plane. And it's not a lot, which tends to put a little bit of validity towards it. Was like her memoirs. It wasn't actually a full blown book. This is not a 300-page book by any means. It more or less looked like a diary that was kind of put together in sequential order. And it was about 45 pages long. And I read it, and I'm just like, wow. And now I grew up. P Diddy was hot when I grew up. Like Bad Boy was hot.
Hi,
Tupac
thanks
was
for
definitely,
joining.
those two were the top of the game. Christopher Wallace, Biggie Smalls, Tupac. So Puff Daddy was in the limelight everywhere. And he stayed there for a good deal of time, and then he branched out and done other things with Ciroc and Sean John. So it's not somebody that I was completely unaware of. But the things that were talked about in that book, I was just like, there's no way. There's no way he done all this. And we're going to talk about a few things in there because now, like, the more time has went by, I read this book in April. Yeah,
the hold on, let's see. The Southern District of New York would beg to differ.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
That a lot more. That book, that diary that you read, is looking more and more credible now.
Yes, it definitely is more and more credible. And this is just one woman's accounts, as we'll go through when we get into the, all the charges against him. There's multiple women, multiple crimes, multiple things that's going on that he's getting charged with. Very serious stuff. And this is just one account, one lady. Now, and I'm gonna just talk about a few of the things from this book because there's a lot of stuff in there. Some very prominent people in the music business are named. I'm not going to talk about every single one, but just a few of them. She says when she first meets Diddy that they, of course, began at some point in time to engage in some activity, and which is fine. I mean, by God, go right ahead.
Yeah, he's not shy, that's for sure.
No, because what his idea of a good time is he wants her to use extra large toys and different things on him to the point to where he's, bleeding. It seems a little painful to me. I don't know. I wouldn't consider that what I would, put in the classification as a pleasurable experience, but to him it was. And I think you can get there. I think at a point in time when you have money and stuff like that, I'm not saying I'll ever be there, but I think it's possible. When you have money and you have girls, I think, you probably go to one girl, then two girls, then three girls, then this, then that. I think you eventually have to get to where that really, really, really far out there is what satisfies the regular craving for you. I think that's a thing. My opinion, I could be wrong. It's not my thing, but I think it is a thing for some people. And she said that she was so weirded out by this experience that she didn't want to talk to him anymore. And obviously she knew who he was. It was Diddy. But I mean, she was just like, this is pretty strange. I'm not going, yeah, it's too much. And he pursued her for a while, but they met up at a club and he was like, I was just kind of a little out there and I'm sorry. And I'd really like to give it another chance. And, they get back together. And she alludes in there that he had affairs with people like Mary J. Blige, and that she also was having, it was a pretty much an open relationship. They were both doing their own thing, which is, I think, in Hollywood and that industry is probably pretty common.
Right.
One of the bigger ones was, and this is the short that that I discussed on the show, was the Tupac situation. Now, she claims in this book to have been with Tupac solo at another point in time. Now, before all the bad blood between East Coast, West Coast, and before everybody wanted to, take each other out, all these guys are friends. Now, there's some pictures in this book of people hanging out in the same location, Snoop, Diddy, etc. And a lot of these, I mean, there's a famous, I forget right off where it's at, but I mean, Pac and Biggie are together rapping at like some concert. It's a famous concert where they get up there and freestyle. So there was a point in time where they all got along. And she said they're at Diddy's home, and they're all hanging out, chilling. And she's like, she's been with Pac solo, and Diddy kind of brings it up like, hey, we've all been with each other, but we've never been with each other together. I've been with Kim, you've been with Kim, but we've never been with Kim together. And almost kind of lays out a competition as to one goes first and sees how long it takes to get Kim to climax.
Right.
And Pac is, according to her words, and I want to make sure people understand this. I'm reading from this book. I'm not saying this is true. I wasn't there. I wasn't hiding in the closet. Oh, Hollywood wasn't nowhere around there, okay? I'm going off the book. She says that Pac is immediately like, F that, F this, F that. I'm not feeling that or whatever. And he just like basically cusses Diddy out and leaves. So this sends Diddy into a little bit of a tizzy. He's
Great.
Upset. I don't know whether he's worried that Pac.
Thanks for joining.
The beans on what he's into, or what. The next day, she says she walks in on a conversation that was had between Pac and a guy by the name of Jimmy Henchman, and that it was an orchestrated setup for Tupac to be shot, which was the shooting that happened at Quad Six Studios the first time Pac got shot, a number of times. Now I know people are going to say it wasn't Jimmy Henchman, it was this person, or it was that person, or it was Haitian Jack, or it was for this reason. I'm not saying this was exactly what happened. Again, I'm just reading from this book. Now, if you watch that Tupac and Biggie, I don't know if I actually ever watched the Tupac movie, but I know there was a show, and he is going to the studio in New York, allegedly. Big sees him from the street. They wave him up. As he goes into the lobby, he's basically robbed and shot. Now, in Tupac's mind, he's thinking he was set up to come there. That is really,
I remember that.
kind of started this whole beef between Tupac and Biggie, East Coast, West Coast. That event was the catalyst. That was the first domino to fall. Now, Pac obviously didn't die. He got shot and he lived, but after that, things just wasn't the same. Now, to hear this book tell it, that was put into motion by Diddy as a revenge for, I guess, Pac dissing off the situation. It seems a little extreme to go to that, I'll admit. But once it doesn't happen, once he's not killed, he's like, all right, well, now he's going to be pissed. Now he's going to think it's us.
That will upset you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where he'd be a little,
Some people shrug it off, but some people take it personal.
I mean, I would. It's personal. It's personal. So now Diddy is kind of like, where do we go from here? And so there's a meeting, and he tells and Big allegedly does not want to do this, but he tells Big to go ahead and drop the track "Who Shot You." This is all This is all in her book. I'm not making this up. This isn't Hollywood's hip hop fables. This is from the book. Okay, you don't want to believe me? Go yell at the author. That's all I can say. That he tells him to go ahead and drop "Who Shot You," because it's almost a poke.
Yeah, like mocking.
I don't know if you're familiar with the song, but it's basically, "Who Shot You" kind of says it, But allegedly this was written before that happened. But now when he drops it, immediately it kind of just pours gasoline on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, Puffy's like, well, if he didn't die, he's going to fire back at us. We might as well at least profit financially from this. And so that kind of starts that. He drops that. Tupac drops "Hit 'Em Up," which was probably one of the greatest diss tracks ever. He talks about being with Faith's wife, or Biggie's wife, Faith Evans, excuse me.
Yeah.
Not Faith Hill, Faith Evans. And so that's where all those kind of tracks come into play. Now, Biggie Smalls is a whole nother story in this, because Biggie allegedly was going to leave Bad Boy and go out on his own. Now, since I read that book in March, there's been multiple articles that drop here, there on different internet sources that said Biggie was going to go out on his own. There's been sources that said Biggie and Pac were going to both leave. Biggie was going to leave Bad Boy. Pac was going to leave Death Row. They were going to get together and do their own label. That has also been something I've read. That's not in this book, but that's just other things that I've read. Now, Puff says at a party, this is at a party, where a lot of prominent, people are supposed to be at, and Kim overhears Puffy say, "I'm not going to have his damn back if he's not got my back 100," or something to that effect. And he's like, "I can't do it myself, but I'll pull protection if we ever leave New York." Now, if you take that at face value, when they go to California, which is not the place that your East Coast rappers are very welcomed, it is where Big got shot. And if you look into the details of it, Gene Deal, who's been doing a lot of interviews here lately, he was the bodyguard. He was with Puff. Nobody was with Biggie. Biggie was taken out. He was shot. I mean, Puff's car was not shot at. So you kind of start to see maybe there is some validity to this. But then I would like, okay, well, why would you take out your biggest artist? Well, if he knew that Biggie was going to leave, he wasn't going to be his biggest artist anymore.
Right.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I'm not 100% sure on what happened with all the royalties and the
Puffy got him.
masters and all of that stuff. There's a part in that book that says Valletta Wallace, who was Biggie's mom,
Mm-hmm.
came to Puff and was basically asking for some of the money that her
Mm-hmm.
son had earned and generated through all the music and everything. And he basically told her, kind of like the whole MC Hammer thing was like, he didn't really make any money. He was in debt. I paid for all the publishing for these records. I paid for this. I paid for that. Really, he owed me money. But if you need a little bit of help, I'll give you some.
Yeah. Out of the
And
goodness of the heart.
yeah, out of the goodness of my heart, I'll give it to you because I'll be honest, you haven't heard a ton from Valletta Wallace, good or bad, about the whole situation with Puffy. And let's be honest, Diddy, I'm sure it was his friend. I'm sure they had, some sort of bond, but he milked, Biggie's death for everything it was worth.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, I'm not sure. I think it is true because Sting said it on the Breakfast Club. He sampled the Police, "I'll Be Missing You" when he sung that song for Biggie. Allegedly, he has to pay Sting. I want to say it's like 1,000 or a couple thousand a day
Damn.
for the rights to
Okay.
that song. That's about to run out here real soon. Sting better be glad he got what he got because Diddy's about to not be able to pay nothing for a while. So that's another story that's in this book. There's also a story about, you remember when he dated Jennifer Lopez?
Mm-hmm.
According to Kim, this whole entire relationship between them two was basically a farce for the media. They were together, they would make public appearances, they would appear to be a couple, but in actuality, Kim was still living at his house. And
Okay.
there was an instance, I don't know how much you followed rap back in those days. You were out in those days, weren't you? Were you in jail?
I was out, but I don't.
I'm not sure the time. This would have been maybe mid 90s. There was a rapper that come out named Shine.
Mm-hmm.
Remember him?
No. I would have followed it more if they played it on WQ.
I remember.
Country.
Okay, I don't know if that's a lot.
I would have probably heard a lot more of it, but they didn't tend to play those songs in country.
You're not going to get a Shine on WIKK Country. I'm glad there's not another K in there. Otherwise, there could be some sniffing around in that radio station.
UYK, not KK.
Okay. So Shine come out. I actually love Shine's first rap album. It is up there on like my top 5 of all rap albums, and I love all kinds of music. Shine had a very distinctive voice. He sounded
Mm-hmm.
very much like Biggie Smalls, and he was kind of going to be that guy to revive Bad Boy, to put him back in that gangster rap, because you could tell a lot of his stuff that he was rapping about was stuff he really did. I mean, he told a story. If you go back to how people would tell stories when they were rapping, he was telling
Mhm.
stories. I'm not going to say they were true, but they damn sure sounded true. If they weren't his, they were somebody that he knew.
Right.
Because it was pretty detailed. So his stardom, his ship starting to sail, if you will, and they're all at a nightclub
Mm-hmm.
in New York. Jennifer Lopez, Cheyenne,
Yep.
Puff.
She's still living today.
There's
The
a
victim.
shooting that happens. A girl gets shot in the face.
Mhm.
I don't think she died. I think she got
Mm-mm.
shot in the face. I don't
She's
think
still
she really
living.
died. I don't think. But anyways, they all get in Puffy's SUV and take off. Now, what winds up happening is Shine takes the rap for having the gun and doing the shooting, but everybody immediately says that it was Biggie. Shine gets a pretty substantial prison sentence out of this. I don't know if he was like 10 years
Mm-hmm.
or 12 years, but he goes to jail. That's what eventually winds up happening. But before that, like the next day after the shooting, she says, this is Kim talking, J-Lo shows up at the house and is like irate with Puffy, saying that, she's got a career and this is going to cost her career in movies and this, that, and the other. And he tells her to relax he's got it all under control. She said, what do you mean you got it under control? And he's like, Shine's going to take the rap for it. He's going to take the bid. Nobody's going to have to do any time. He's going to admit to having the gun. He's going to admit to being the trigger guy. And, you know, we're basically going to skate on this. And she's like, well, what happens if he changes his mind while he's in there? Like, if he don't decides, hey, I'm not going to do all this time. He's like, nobody inside will change their mind. There's too many people that can get to him if they decide to change their mind. And I guess to a certain degree, maybe it kind of set her at ease. And according to Kim, before she leaves, he tries to get the three of them together. To get together, J-Lo's just like, no, there's too much shit going on. I can't do this. So even in the midst of all this, Puffy's still trying to, you know, get J-Lo and Kim in the bed. You know, I guess kudos to him.
Priorities.
Yeah, you got priorities. You got priorities.
What shirt do you have on?
This is my Hawk Tour 24.
That's great.
How about that girl, huh? I don't want to get sidetracked, but Jesus, I'm so jealous of her.
I know, like, I mean, a random comment, boom, stardom. She's probably multi-millionaire by now, right?
I know the other day I read that she made her first million. She's got her podcast with Jake Paul, and the Better response from that. She's done been on all these Matt Rife Saturdays, you know, concerts or, you know, comedy shows.
Yeah.
She's everywhere. And good for her. I'm not knocking. A lot of people hate on her. I'm not knocking. I would have grabbed that 15 minutes and wrote it for all I could too. So
yeah.
Good for her. But yeah, that's my hot shirt. So just a little tidbit here on the Shine situation. Shine gets out of jail, and allegedly he cut, I think at his second rap album, there's like 2 songs on there. The quality is absolutely horrible. Allegedly he cut them from jail. But now he gets out of jail and is given, I can't remember the number amount on the contract. It was either like $2 million or $8 million, somewhere along in that neighborhood, by a guy named L.A. Reid. L.A. Reid's a big music producer in Hollywood. You've probably heard his name mentioned in other documentaries. Now he's
Thanks for joining.
by L.A. Reid to do like, you know, X amount of albums. That second one came out. He goes to a whole nother country, and that album never comes out. Now, what it said is that was a payoff. A payoff that L.A. Reid made to Shine to do some albums that he never did. L.A. never tried to follow up on it, get his money back for everything, because more than likely, you know, what happened, and according to this book, Puffy paid L.A. under the table to give that to Shine. That way it's not coming from him as payment for taking the rap for the
right. And they have a legitimate reason on why he would pay him. He's supposed to do 2 albums, and he fucked me over.
Yeah. So, but I mean, L.A. never pushes it. You know, he never goes after it. But correct, they have a legitimate reason why that money came, but you know, and nothing ever came of it. They never got what they were supposed to get. Everybody said that was the payoff. Now, there's another situation, and this was actually picked up by a few media outlets. Radar Online, I think, had it. Angela Yee, who used to be on The Breakfast Club, she had it on her show. It surfaced on a bunch of podcasts probably about a month ago, where he had hit her, I think, with a chair, and she woke up in the hospital.
That's awful.
Hit Kim.
Okay.
And she wakes up in the hospital, you know, after being hit with this chair. He was apparently a very violent dude. Like, you know, not only would he beat her physically, and especially if he thought she was talking to other guys, but like it got to a point somewhere along in there where he was very, very violent. And but for whatever reason, she kept going back. So it's one of those things where, like, you can only get pity for so long because you keep going back to this guy. But she ultimately, in the book, she said that she loved him. Now,
he's manipulating her with money and all kinds of stuff. So, or at least that seemed to be his MO, according to the indictment. But anyway.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. You got to figure, when you've got that much money, you got to think about this, Matt. We're talking about a guy that a year ago was given the key to the city of New York in the middle of Times Square. They gave Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, whatever you want to call him, the key to the city. And now he's possibly going away for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I don't think the key it doesn't really open anything, but I hear you.
No, it doesn't open anything, but it's still like, they did give Francis a key
Mm-hmm.
to Florida, I think, one time.
The bar is low. Like these criminals, you're giving criminals like I should get it something, class code, something,
The key to the real estate agency down there.
something ridiculous.
There's a situation where she winds up being pregnant.
Oh,
Twins. Now there have been
Diddy?
no, well Kim.
No, I know Diddy's not pregnant.
Yes,
I'm
it's
saying
Diddy.
by Diddy.
Yes,
But
by
you said it was kind of an open relationship.
it was in the beginning. It kind of solidified back to a regular relationship, but they would often have like other parties come in involved. She would say that he would have multiple people come in and be with her so he could watch.
Damn.
And these are the parts when I'm hearing about this, I'm like, I don't know if this is, 100% accurate. It sounds like it's kind of stretched, but then now with all these indictments, it sounds right in line.
Yeah.
And you got to remember, again, I'm reading this back in March or April. So she finds out she's pregnant, and she goes to him and she tells him. And because they've been doing all this wild, crazy shit, she thinks that he's going to be upset. And she said he's like smiling, and he's like kind of happy. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm going to be a dad. This is great," because she had a kid when they first got together, but it was from another guy named Al B. Sure, who was another singer. So Diddy was excited, and she said, "I was so relieved that he wasn't mad." And she was like, "But we're going to have to go, one more time now before you can't do this anymore." And she's like, "What do you mean?" And what he meant was they're going to have to do another, basically, I don't know if I would classify this as a party, but he wanted multiple people, multiple guys to be with her.
That's just
And we're
crazy.
talking like Vince McMahon-esque type situations, like hurtful stuff.
Right.
Stuff that I don't even want to say because I don't want to get this video demonetized.
Right.
But I mean, just some really bad shit. And she, was somewhat, I would say, forced, or, at that point, she's got his kids. What can she do? Now, after she has the kids, the relationship doesn't get any better. There's still a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot more stuff in the book, so I can't remember all of it. But the key here is when she finally decides to get away. Now, she said that he would record a lot of prominent people and keep these recordings in a safe in his house. Now, she goes to his house, which I'm sure she had access to. She gets the safe, gets the stuff from the safe, all these videos, and she basically uses that as the exit strategy. And at that point, she says that she's going to write this book, and if anything happens to her, the book will be released along with the tapes. Now, these tapes are alleged to have singers Usher, Justin Bieber. There's a lot of prominent celebrities. Now, these are all guys that have been in the media about being with him. There's videos of him with Bieber saying that Bieber hung out at his house for like 2 or 3 days back when Bieber was really young.
There's times, unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in acts with
Thanks for joining.
Workers. And then later it says in the indictment that that he would use them to intimidate and coerce these various people. So yeah, bro, this is why you should have done a video like this 3 months ago or 2 months ago.
Well, like I didn't at that point. I was just like, I didn't want to come out and be like the delivery guy of a bunch of misinformation and this, that, and the other. I was you got to understand, this is a guy that I would have not thought was responsible. I don't think a lot of people thought he was responsible for it.
I interview guys that do that all the time.
Yeah, but I don't want to be that guy.
I mean, listen, there's a good 15% of these guys that are talking to me on my program, and I'm thinking, I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think that happened. That doesn't feel right. But hey, whatever. Anyway, the book, it's out, right?
Yes, the book is out right now. It's on Amazon.
Right. And it's been out for how long?
It actually got, I think, dropped on Amazon about 2 weeks ago, but it's been around since April.
Okay, so it's been around whatever, but it's been published. But it's been published 2 weeks ago, and the indictment just came out.
Yes, it's been out. It's been published, I think, on Amazon. It got posted to Amazon roughly 2 weeks ago, and the indictment, yeah, just dropped today. And
Okay.
like I said,
You have
I
a copy
talked
of it?
about I do what
You have a copy of it?
not since it actually got published by Amazon because everything's changed. It was basically just like it looked like a movie script when I got it.
Okay.
Now it's got like a cover, and it's actually I don't know if you can see this, but
All right now.
Oh,
Kim,
that's not a bad cover. It's not
it's
horrible.
Kim's Lost Words. Looks a little blurry on the phone, obviously, but the book didn't even have a cover when I read it, which is another reason why I was
Kim's
a little
Lost Words.
skeptical about all this. But it did have some pictures mixed in there with it, and again, like I said, this just come out a couple weeks ago. The indictment just happened, but I read all this, months and months ago, and then little bit by little bit, all these things were coming out. There's clips of him if you search Diddy and Bieber, where he's talking about he had Bieber at his house and they were partying and hanging out together. And then if you
Okay.
watch, there's a clip with Usher where he's
Mm.
with Howard Stern and he's talking about the Diddy parties. I think
Mm-hmm.
they called it something, but it was the Diddy parties that he would go to. And he's basically saying that a lot of shit went on that shouldn't have went on.
Mm-hmm.
And Howard even asked, he's like, if you had a son, would you let him go to a Diddy party? And he's like, absolutely not. So she gets her hands on these tapes, and that's basically like her security. That all right, if something happens to me, this is going to go.
Right.
Now they do separate. She gets sick and ultimately passes away in pneumonia. He's not questioned or anything in this. They ruled it pneumonia, so I don't want to drum up a conspiracy with that, but they didn't question him in anything like that. It wasn't ever really looked into. Did he do this? Even though there's been quite a few people in the music industry involved with Diddy
Mm-hmm.
has died of pneumonia. I'm not saying that's a coincidence, but I'm saying it looks like a coincidence. So she's got this. She passes away of pneumonia. Now her house is robbed,
Right.
and basically what they're saying that what happened here is, or the consensus is that Diddy knew she had this, so
I remember
he
that.
went and tried to retrieve all these hard drives. And the word is that he did. Now, obviously, this isn't what's in the book. This is what I was told by this individual of how he became in possession of it. Was Diddy got the hard drive? Diddy got all the evidence back from her. Now, at some point, and this is alleged, this is coming second, third hand information. Cassie got it from him, and Cassie gave it to someone who he knew, and that's how he come in contact with it. Cassie is the girl, obviously, that was shown in the video of him really, really brutalizing in the hallway and next to the elevator. That's the video that released probably 2 or 3 months ago. I don't know if you remember that one or not. It was pretty graphic.
Okay.
Right. Chasing her down the hall, beating her, kicking her, and all that. Allegedly, she got it from him, and whoever she gave it to knew the person that I was speaking with, and that's how they actually got it. They're obviously worried about repercussions from releasing this, but they wanted the truth to come out, and so that's kind of where we are. Now, you notice the name on that book of the author?
Yeah. Well, it's not the author. She's it's. Yeah, well, yeah, by Millwood or whatever, Jamal Millwood, T. Millwood, for Lee Porter.
Right. Now, you want to know what you get when you Google Jamal Millwood?
Mm-hmm.
This just kind of goes further down this rabbit hole. This was an alias of what allegedly Tupac Shakur used after he faked his death.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know whether this is just like a little inside thing or what with this. But yeah, there's a lot more stories here, man. There's stuff with Jay-Z, and I think I might have skipped over that part, that allegedly Jay-Z was the one that told Biggie, or told Puff, that Biggie was planning on leaving, which is what kind of set that in motion that he was going to pull protection. He wasn't going to back someone that wasn't backing him. The kind of the story behind that is, if Jay-Z wanted that spot of New York for him, and if Biggie was around, he was going to be second. Maybe not. I don't know. That's in the book written by Kim that meeting happened. all this stuff up until obviously when she died is accounts that she had with him. There's, like I said, there's a lot of other stuff in there. We'll put the link up obviously in the description if you guys want to go check it out. I'm telling you, just to read this, it was really at that time, like I said, it kind of took me a little bit by surprise. But now with all these indictments, and we can get into these indictments, it seems like this book was spot on because we're not just talking about a few minor instances here. He's got racketeering charges, which carries a life sentence. A lot of the mob guys that I've interviewed had racketeering charges. He's got kidnapping charges that are a minimum of like 10, and these trafficking charges can go up to life at the minimum of 15. And that's just a few.
Yeah.
And have you seen, from what I've seen, they have not given him bond, I don't think.
No bond.
No, I can imagine that. Well, I was gonna say I can't imagine they will, but the truth is, they might give it to him. He puts up enough property. He's well known enough. It's kind of like the whole Sam Bankman-Fried thing. It's like, okay, you can say, well, he shouldn't get bond. He could flee the country. Well, where's he gonna go? You know, there's very few places this guy can go. He's got enough property and stuff to put up as collateral, and he's too recognizable to disappear.
No, I agree. And I guess I never had this. Obviously, I never had this kind of a situation to deal with. But it looks like kind of a proposal of his defense team, and it's like a $50 million bond. He's going to put up his home in Miami. It's equated to 50 mil or 49 million. Obviously, he can put up other assets of his businesses. Part of the deal was he would be, I guess, confined to his home in Florida and his home in New York and New Jersey.
Put an ankle monitor on.
He suspended his passport, so obviously he can't leave the country. And also his family, his kids and his family surrendered their passports as well. But last I seen, I don't know 100% if I can say it's denied, but he hasn't gotten it yet. And I don't really imagine with these charges that he's going to get it.
Thanks for watching.
It's not just those three. And you got the indictment there, but they got on there coercion, enticing to engage in narcotics, arson, bribery, obstruction of justice. Like, they got a lot of stuff on him.
No, he's carrying weapons. He's known to carry weapons. His staff carries.
We talked about that. The New York incident. What we talked about.
Yeah, they'll threaten you with the weapons. They're threatening you with your career, with violence, with everything across the board. So it reads very much like an organized crime, like a continuing criminal enterprise that he's involved in. And he's got a whole group of people that are protecting him and that are basically on staff to clean up after him, to make sure that it doesn't get out in the public, to intimidate people. And of course, you're moving people you're flying people in from various states for acts like that's trafficking. It's all kinds of stuff. Whether these are and they're willing to do it or not, it's illegal to fly them in. So it's all federal jurisdiction. He's got some problems. The real problem is they don't have to charge. They don't have to prove a whole bunch of this. It's not like that to prove every single element.
Yeah.
So and God knows how many people are ready to get on the stand and start talking, especially once he's in custody. Once he's in custody and he's been indicted, more people will jump out because a lot of people are like, I don't want to come in and talk.
But he's in custody now.
My fear is I'll talk, it'll become known that I talk, and you'll never indict this guy, and it'll be out there that I was cooperating, and that's bad for me. Yeah. But once you grab the guy and throw him in jail and start arresting people, and they realize this is serious, okay, I'll talk to you.
And that's why when you see cases like, Epstein or Weinstein or whatever, once that first domino falls, all the other ones start to come behind it. And, people will say, well, why didn't you say Epstein? It could be a lot of reasons why these girls didn't talk. In Weinstein's case, if these girls talked, they were, basically threatened with abolishment of the industry. That's how they make their living, So you can say, oh, I wouldn't do that. You don't know what you would do. If that's how you make a living and it's say, hey, you do this or you're never working this town again, who knows? And apparently a lot of people had to endure that. And that's why Bill Cosby, more people
Mm-hmm.
started coming out. More people started coming out, and I
Mm-hmm.
think, like you said, it gives a sense of security when they're behind bars, and then it really starts to the dominoes really starts to fall. And it
Mm-hmm.
sounds a lot to me, Matt, like he's running this like a mob style family. Like he's running off threats, intimidation. He's got the money to buy whoever he needs. Probably, definitely local cops. You know,
Mm-hmm.
on up to detectives.
Mm-hmm.
Probably he could probably put on the payroll if he wanted to. Let's not sit here and act like New York is the most clean, city with a great criminal record that nobody's ever took a bribe or a conspiracy in that town. Um, and I think that's really what it is he's running this thing like a mob family, and there's connections that his dad, I think, was tied into Frank Lucas, who was a
Mm-hmm.
heavy drug dealer. He
That's
was
right.
portrayed in the movie American Gangster
Mm-hmm.
when Denzel Washington played him. And I
Mm-hmm.
think there's an interview where he talks about Frank is talking to Puffy, and he's saying that he knew his dad. So, you know, Puffy's dad was kind of in this
Mm-hmm.
life to a certain degree too,
Sure enough.
the
So
gangster.
he's not
So it's
new.
like he made his money in music, but he still wanted to be a gangster.
Mm-hmm.
But yet he had this really undying fetish for basically hours and hours and hours and hours of activity. And the guy's got to be up there.
Well, if the chick was 47 when she died, this is the chick you're banging, and she died.
He's got to be 50 something, I would imagine. The narcotics trafficking, we're going to read some of the narcotics here, and you may have them on your list, but, this was, blow, oxycodone, Xanax, GHB, which is also the date rape drug.
Mm.
And this is the kicker here. I don't think this come out back when they raided his house, because this is when this was found. Over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lube, 3 AK-47s with drum magazines. I hope that wasn't all in the same room. Otherwise, I got some serious questions. What are you doing with 1,000 bottles of baby oil?
I mean, a lot of slipping and sliding,
Mm-hmm.
You buy 6 bottles and you duct tape a couple of shower curtains together. You lay them out on the floor, and it's just like a big slip and slide. Like it's all over the place.
I heard a guy tell me a long time ago. This is actually when you could still find these things. Do you remember waterbeds?
I remember them.
Of course.
He said that was the funnest experience he'd ever had. Was he had this chick and they ripped off all the sheets. It was just that little plastic thing that held the water, and they just doused it with baby oil and everything, and just had a good time.
Never had a good time on a waterbed. The rhythm of the water throws me off.
Yeah.
And you do that, I feel like you're slipping and sliding. Somebody's shooting off the bed. I hit the wall, and I just feel like I just know it'd be a catastrophe for me. It's like
that's the idea.
It's like having in the shower. It sounds good.
And it's not.
It's not.
You got to get foot placement down. You don't want to fall.
No. Threesomes, bumpy, awkward. Somebody's left out.
Is this yours? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. It sounds really cool, and they make it look cool in the movies, but no. Maybe there's a class or something. I'm probably doing it wrong. But anyway, yeah.
I'm sure there's a class. You can probably listen to it on Crime and Entertainment. I'm sure it's some good stories.
Diddy took a class.
Oh yeah, I think he taught him.
He can teach. He'll be teaching ACE courses on this in prison.
Yeah, they call these parties the freak off parties.
Did you hear the Sorry. Did you hear the press conference when the U.S. attorney had to say "freak off" over and over again? Like it's so hard for him to be. He's trying to make it sound really. They called these parties "freak off." It's like I wouldn't have even touched on that if I was you. I would have left that part out. There's some things I just wouldn't have broached. Some show tricks I'd be like, look, I can't pull this off. I can't do it.
And that's where I guess you would say he's flying in male performers to be with the regular girls. Like, I don't even think it's enough for him to be involved. He wants to see it, and then him be involved. And then they said after all this is over, that they would get IVs. Because they had engaged in this for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the GHB was used to keep them in sort of a comatose state that they were okay with it,
Mm-hmm.
they would have to go get IVs to give them energy back.
Well, so these are like male we're talking about, right?
I'm assuming it said male
That's
performers, so
awful.
like that's what I'm guessing.
How do you get that gig?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
you're going to
not,
get Puff Daddy's going to pay to fly me down and just run through a bunch of girls all night long.
I
That's
don't.
sad.
I mean, listen, when I was in the halfway house and I was on one of those, I was on one of those websites looking to apply for jobs. Nothing, nothing.
I'm so pissed at Darlington High, my alma mater, that was not on the field day list or the career day list. I didn't see Puff Daddy's mail on there, or I would have, say he was popular back then.
Commercial performers. What does that even mean? Like that's the most.
Male stars is the only thing I can think of.
What you're thinking? Okay.
It's got to be, or either just. I mean, I'm sure they have like, I don't know what you call them nowadays, male escorts or whatever, but.
Like, I don't want to see all that.
No,
I don't want to see all that.
I don't either.
I don't want to follow that. I don't want to follow that. Listen, I've seen some. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've seen some of these things. I don't want to follow that up. Like I see something like that, I'd be like, yeah, I don't want to know. I don't want to. And now what? Now Kim's coming. Now Kim, come on, let's go to bed. It's 9:45. I want to go to bed.
What are you gonna do with that? I said a gas pump inside of her.
Can't follow that up.
Woo. Oh boy. Right here before this indictment come down, I'd say about a month, a couple weeks, he got $100 million lawsuit on him, like a lawsuit. I remember that. I actually was reading about that right before we hopped on air. I remember seeing it come out. And it's like these dominoes were already starting to fall. I don't know how this dude wasn't panicking, because apparently he was just chilling in Central Park before all this
was coming down. He knew it was coming down. I mean, he's probably just like, look, this is coming down. He's been holding this thing together for the longest. He's stressed out of his mind. He's probably like,
That's a sad way to live.
On all kinds of Xanax and whatever, and he's just waiting for the ship to go down. He's been preparing. He knows he can't go anywhere. He knows I can't run. I can't do anything. Like there's nowhere I'm going to go to get away from this, And he's hoping he's duct taped it together enough that maybe they won't get an indictment, or maybe I'll beat the charges, or because let's face it, he had people standing by. He had a crew of lawyers standing by waiting for this to come down.
Yeah, he had to know. I think everybody knew it was coming. It was just a matter of time. And that's what makes me think that they're really, really going to try to nail him to the wall on this, because this was really back in March when all this happened, or somewhere around there. They built this case this entire time. And he had to know what they found in a lot of these things, and especially if he found, video footage of these parties. And I think that's why they said that so many people.
And I remember those white parties.
Go up against
those go way back into the 90s.
So who's going to speak out against them? It's like when you go to this, you basically sell your soul. There is a video that's leaked online. This is nowhere mentioned in the book, because obviously I think by the time he got on the scene, Kim had passed away. But there's another rapper named Meek Mill, and allegedly there's some activity going on, some Shannon Sharpness going on in this, and it definitely sounds like Puffy. It definitely sounds like him in there. Meek, that's kind of up for debate, but they've got something going there in that video. It's rather short, but it sounds pretty close. Did you see what happened with Shannon Sharp?
I heard it.
No. What
you know who Shannon Sharp is?
No, I don't know these people. What?
So Shannon Sharp was a former NFL player, and he's got his own podcast called Club Shay Shay. That's the one where Cat Williams kind of let out a lot of stuff about all the big celebrities. And
oh yeah, okay.
So that's Shannon Sharp. So he's with a lady friend, and he said he's never been on Instagram Live before in his life. So he goes with his lady friend back in this room. Somehow or another, inadvertently, accidentally, his phone goes on Instagram Live. And he proceeds to, as he called it, starts clapping cheeks. And this is going live, like you can hear everything. You can't see it because it's like it's showing the ceiling or maybe laying on some covers or something like that. But you can hear a good play-by-play, going on. And he's like, we finished. His explanation of it was hilarious. And he's like, we finished, and he's like, I got another phone that only a couple people know. And he's like, the phone is going crazy. People's calling me on FaceTime. He's like, some people ain't never called me on FaceTime. And they said, oh, you got to cut your phone off. Man, what are you talking about? He said, and his agent, longest time agent or manager, called me like, man, you on Instagram Live on your phone. You need to cut it off. He said, what you mean I'm on Instagram Live? He said, your phone's on Instagram Live. He said, well, what are you hearing? He said, well, it sounds like it happens. And he's like, And so
I missed that one.
Put up something like, this account was hacked. Don't know what happened. We're looking into it. He comes out the next day and is like, look, I don't know how it happened, but it happened. It was me. And he's like, look, I told you, I get it in. I mean, he's trying to play it off. It's hard to find you that link and send it to you. It's funny. But I mean, he got roasted for it. But again, that's consensual. That's two people doing something of their own free will. Nobody was being beaten with a chair. Shannon didn't have 4 offensive linemen ready to go in after him and tear this girl apart. What Diddy is doing here is way, way, way past, I think, consensual to anything that anybody had going on. And now you're seeing more and more women come up and speak out. And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg. And when people start, getting a hold of this book, seeing everything that Kim went through, if he can do that to the kids of his, the mother of his kids, and there's nobody that's safe. There's nobody that's safe. Maybe now, but
yeah, well, I don't know.
I don't know what kind of freaknik you can pull off in whatever that jail is. Is in Brooklyn?
I mean, I don't know. He's got to be. He's in? I don't know, New York or something. Yeah.
Get Gene Barillo on the phone and tell me where he's at. Well, Brooklyn. I heard him talk about it.
So here's the thing: does he end up going to trial, or does he take a plea? You know what the problem with someone like this guy is? In his mind, he thinks if I pay my lawyers enough, I can beat this at trial. And you just can't beat the feds at trial if you're guilty. And it sounds like he's extremely guilty. So the problem is that the lawyers are thinking we can fucking make a fortune taking this to trial, and we'll lose. Maybe we win. Maybe by some miracle we end up getting a mistrial or we win, but we will fucking make bank if we take this to trial.
Then they're going to do a podcast, and then they're going to
write books and movies.
Do everything that the OJ lawyers did.
What'll happen is they'll just gut him for as much money as they possibly can. They'll gut the hell out of him. They'll drag the trial out. They'll make whatever, $50 million or however much he blows on his trial. He gets found guilty, and then he'll get 30 years, maybe longer. Now they'll probably offer him some kind of a plea, like, "Hey, take 20 years. Take 20 years." But in his mind, he's thinking, "Nah, it's better to just go to trial. I can beat it at trial." But the truth is, you can't beat it at trial. And your lawyers his lawyers, if they're good lawyers, they'll tell him take 20. If they're bad lawyers, or just basically if they're just lawyers, they're going to convince him to go to trial because they know how much money they're going to make at trial. So if he's smart, he's got decent lawyers, they'll tell him take the 20, and we'll try and get you some kind of a reduced sentence, or we'll try and get some kind of mitigating factor. They'll try and convince him they can try and get him less than 20, but he needs to take 20 and won't be that bad. And with the credits and with good time and halfway house, and it won't be that horrible, and it will be. But especially for him, he's gonna fall. He has fallen so far. Right now, he's being treated in prison in a way that he's never been treated in his life. And I mean, it's bad. He's never had a door shut where there's nothing, there's no cable, the mattress sucks. It's noisy. People are screaming. You can't get up and get a snack. It's cold as fuck all. that they put you in a jumper that's been worn by 800 other people. I mean, it's disgusting. You know, it's going to be bad. He's right now he is in the he's in the depths of a depression that he's never known, and he's coming off of all the drugs that he typically has in his
Mm.
system to cope with anxiety and everything else that he's going through. He's going to have a bad time. The next few days are going to be rough. What happens is, if it's probably better for him if they keep him there, then by the time he's like trying to talking about pleas and going to trial and going back and forth with the U.S. attorney, if he's been there for a few months, his expectations of life have dropped dramatically, and he might start thinking, you know what? Okay, so I take 20, I'll end up doing 10 or 12. I can probably do that. It'll suck, but I can do that. I'll still have a bunch of money when I get out, and he won't be living like a normal inmate.
Mm.
I'll go to a low security prison. In a few years, they'll send me to a camp. I'll be able to get a cell phone, play video games. You know, I'll arrange it so that chicks can come in and I can bang them. You know, like it won't be that horrible of a situation in a few years because he can go to a camp.
So y'all
It
could
still
check
sucks, but
out
it's not
this.
like Shawshank Redemption.
This is
And
Matthew
sorry,
Cox,
go ahead.
Inside
Yeah,
True
so
Crime. That's
you almost
the
made that
station
sound
we
a little appealing
watching.
to some people the way you just run on that. He'll
I
get
mean,
good food. He'll have women come in. He's got a cell phone, play video games.
yeah, you can basically stay drunk most of the time. You can work out. You can do what basically you get a regular job. And like I said, right now that seems like hell, but his expectations of life, what he expects out of life, is pretty high right now. As it drops to the point where, you know, reading a good book and drinking a beer and texting somebody on the phone is like amazing and super entertaining, and be able to watch YouTube. Like by the time he gets into a camp and he can get a cell phone, get an iPhone and watch YouTube, watch movies, play video games. Like it's really just like a really shitty summer camp with shitty guards. But let's face it, he can also put money on everybody's books. He'll be able to, there will be guards that he'll take care of.
Oh, up 100%.
Yeah, like it's not like 12 years. Doing 10 or 12 years and almost most of it in a camp is honestly not really bad. With money.
Are you able to? Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's kind of what I was going to get to. Are you saying it's not that bad because he has the money?
Yes.
If you didn't have the money, it would be much worse.
Well, it would be worse, but it's still not that bad, because then what happens is you have the guys that basically just cater to the guys with the money.
So do you think he would get, even with these trafficking and, you know, all these other crimes that he's accused of, racketeering? I mean, that's some serious crimes that, you know, do you think he could still swing a plea deal to get him in that sort of a prison?
I think that the U.S. attorney would give him, well, first of all, the plea deal has nothing to do with what kind of prison. It's the time and what the charges are. So he'll get 20, but he'll start getting what do they call it, the first chance at the FS, whatever they call these credits that you can get. He'll start getting credit. So,
Whatever, yeah.
right. So, well, the what?
First chance.
Yeah, first chance act.
Yeah.
Right. So first he gets 20. Immediately 3 years come off. So he's down to 17 years. Right. Then he'll start earning credits right away. So after, let's say, three or four years,
Why do you start earning credits right away?
Because he'll work. You get credits for working. You get credits for taking classes. So after a few years of taking those classes, and by the time he goes to a prison, he'll already probably have a year in. He won't get sentenced for over a year, let's say. So you've got a year off. So you're already at 16 years. Let's say for 3 years, he's working and he's taking. So he's working and he's taking classes. He gets his time knocked off. He gets credits for that. So very quickly he'll get down to around 10 years, and they'll get him sent to a camp.
Okay.
But even the lows, very much, it's similar to a camp. So he'll go to a camp, and even in the low, he can get a cell phone. Like he'll have a cell phone, but in a camp, you can basically.
Okay, you all. So we've been on live for an hour. So that was Matthew Cox, his channel, Matthew Cox, Inside the True Crime. Y'all could go and finish watching that. I was watching another YouTuber and she mentioned this person had a copy of this diary of Kim Porter. And so I had to go and check it out, and I wanted to share it with you all. This is just heartbreaking from the beginning to the end. Thanks for watching, y'all. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you be notified when I'm dropping new videos. Shabbat Shalom.